Good morning, all, and thank you for being here. So, Volatus Aerospace operates at the intersection of aviation, autonomy, and defense technology. We believe the market is moving beyond standalone drone products, more towards integrated mission systems and autonomous aviation platforms. What differentiates Volatus is that our technology is not being developed in isolation. It is being refined every day through large-scale commercial operations in real test environments. Moving on the next slide, it's standard safe harbor statement. This presentation may contain some forward-looking disclaimers, so caution is warranted. Uh, I recommend everyone to read through this carefully. So this slide presents the leadership behind the entire Volatus team. I will. Glenn Lynch is the CEO of the organization and the CFO. We total have 130 years of combined aviation experience. You will see our CTO's photo has been grayed out. That is for security reasons. He's a former warfare engineer. Worked with Interpol, IDF, Indian Army, and also supported Ukraine. So a very high-profile person. So for security reason, we are just keeping him, no pun intended, but under the radar. At our core, we are an integrated aerospace autonomy platform today. Over the last several years, we have built platform that combines piloted aviation, drone operations, mission systems, remote operations, and manufacturing with proprietary autonomy infrastructure. Today, we operate approximately 28 piloted aircraft and over 100 drones flying across Canada, US, UK, and South America. Across that footprint, we support approximately 1.1 million miles or 1.7 million kilometers of pipeline operations annually and perform tens of thousands of utility inspections every year. That commercial activity is foundational to the company. It provides us recurring revenue, deployment experience, customer integration, and continuous field validation for our systems. One of the biggest misconceptions in that sector is that opportunity is simply about the aircraft. It's not. There is no shortage of companies building drones or as we call it as airframes. What is scarce is integrated execution capabilities and autonomy layer. The real challenge is bringing everything together in operations, in autonomy, in manufacturing, mission systems, training, and regulatory expertise inside one scalable operating infrastructure. Many companies in this sector are still trying to prove operational validity. Our systems are already operating at commercial scale today. The foundation of the business has been commercial. Defense was an obvious next step for us. Across allied nations, governments are increasing the investments in defense, domestic aerospace production, technology ownership, and operational readiness. Volatus is already aligned with those priorities today. We have a Canadian manufacturing base, a centralized engineering, active flight operations, and multi jurisdiction operating footprint. Importantly, this was not a sudden pivot in defense, it was a natural progression for us. These are the capabilities we built commercially over time that are now becoming increasingly relevant across both civil and defense markets. Our manufacturing approach is also designed for rapid iteration and they keep evolving as the mission requirement changes or the requirement and the need from the defense organization evolves as well. Our commercial business generates recurring revenue and active deployment experience across energy, utility, infrastructure, and public safety. That activity continuously refines, and our autonomy systems, remote operations, and workflows and mission architecture keeps evolving with that. On top of that foundation, we are expanding into ISR, which is basically intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, counter UAS, mission system, and defense applications. Training and deployment infrastructure deepen customer integration and support long term growth across both commercial and defense markets today. This slide represents the core technology stack. At the center, you'll see is V Cortex AI, which is the autonomy and the control layer connecting aircraft sensors, remote operation, and mission execution. Supporting that stack is proprietary flight controller and our own autonomy systems and autopilot system. Around that sits is a broader ecosystem. So below Cortex AI in the aircraft and deployment platform, those are all Volatus products that we have deployed, that we are deploying across commercial and defense segments. This includes large drone platforms, which basically is category 3, deployment infrastructure, ISR payloads, communication systems, and counter UAS capability as well. Counter UAS is becoming increasingly important globally, specifically around infrastructure, public safety, and military environment. Our approach combines these operational experience, autonomy, infrastructure, or layer, simulation capability through our newly launched counter UAS software called SKYDRA, and these are all layered around detection and mitigating technologies today. During the quarter, we combined, we continued advancing our proprietary platform and software portfolio, and that's where majority of the investment went in Q1 2026. Skydra was officially launched as a first SaaS-based counter UAS operational planning and simulation platform, establishing an important recurring software revenue opportunity for the company. We also continued advancing the V100, which is basically a MALE technology platform, and MALE stands for Medium Altitude Long Endurance drones. The Condor XL heavy lift drone program, which can lift 180 kg and fly for around 200-kilometer range. The V Cortex AI autonomy architecture, which is basically the brains behind every drone. V Cortex is particularly important strategically because it represents underlying autonomy and mission system framework, supporting multiple systems, families across our ecosystem. It is drone agnostic, so it will not only work with our own technology, it can be also integrated with third-party technologies that the defense organization deploy actively across different mission profiles. Collectively, these initiatives reinforce our transition towards a more integrated aerospace and defense autonomous system company, combining manufacturing, operations, autonomy, software, and mission systems. This slide basically showcases how we have two operating engine today, and what significantly differentiates Volatus from any other organization operating outside the market. We already operate autonomous aviation infrastructure at meaningful scale. These are not pilot projects. We support major customers through large-scale deployments across energy, utilities, infrastructure, and public safety, which includes the 1.7 million kilometer of pipeline inspection we do it in Canada today, and we just expanded in the US market a few months back with a base in Tulsa, Oklahoma. To give you a difference in scale, Canada has around 600,000 kilometers of pipeline. US has over 3 million miles of pipeline. So the scale is over 10x, and that's where we are expanding. Many of the technologies are now entering the defense applications, which were originally developed and proven through commercial BVLOS operations. We are one of the only companies right now in North America that is operating drones without a single pilot on the ground, remotely thousands of miles away from. One example is we operate from Edmonton International Airport, drones that are being flown from our operation command center in north of Toronto. And that's just one example of how we have achieved scale, which of course impacts our unit economics, our margin profile, and remove the dependencies on hiring more human resources at the same time. This is one of the important transitions inside the company. Historically, the growth through acquisition created fragmented structures. Today, engineering specifically operates under one roadmap, one architecture, and one autonomy strategy that includes centralized ownership of our IP. At the same time, our Mirabel manufacturing facility in Quebec, in Canada, allows us to scale production capability and strengthens our supply chain. Our objective is not simply building drone or airframes. We are building adaptable manufacturing capability designed for rapid iteration. It's a 53,000 square feet manufacturing facility fully secure perimeter control design for defense contracts. We also have a right of first refusal on an adjacent facility which is 200,000 square feet. Our current facility at scale can have a capacity to generate $250 million in revenue, and we are designed and planned in a way that if we meet capacity, the next obvious step is to expand, and we have already identified the facility for that next step of expansion right now. One of the important operational milestone in the last quarter was the continued activation of the manufacturing facility that I was speaking. The facility is now supporting initial manufacturing system integration, testing and operational activities aligned with a long-term sovereign aerospace strategy. Importantly, approximately 10 weeks after taking the possession of the facility, we have completed the first production of our Sentinel docking systems. This milestone represents an important operational proof point as we transition from manufacturing strategy into manufacturing execution. The Mirabel manufacturing is basically intended to support scalable drone productions, Canadian sovereign capability, allied export opportunities to NATO and European partners, and long-term autonomous systems deployment. Our revenue model is intentionally layered and very diversified. Commercial operations generate recurring service revenue and operational cash flow, but they also generate mission data, deployment experience, customer integration, continuous refinement of a broader autonomy platform that we are building. Equipment sales expands our deployment scale and create a network effect that pushes our own technology out in the market at scale and with rapid execution. Training deepens our customer integration and customer interaction. And increasingly, the mission systems, software, and counter UAS capability represent long-term margin expansion opportunity. Defense, of course, enables us to operate as a prime. For example, in late last year in December, we won a $9 million contract where Volatus was appointed as a neo prime, where we are actually working directly with the defense organization. That's just the beginning. Eventually, the defense contract expands into defense programs where 40% is tied to equipment delivery, and the remaining 60% is tied to sustainment revenue, which comes with services, which comes with training, replacement, software, and that obviously not just expanded our revenue opportunities, but also expands the margins of the business. Next slide highlights the financial snapshot of the company. So let me take a few minutes and go through in detail with the financial profile and how the business itself has evolved over the last several years now. Starting at the top left, we delivered approximately 26% year-on-year revenue growth in financial year 2025, reaching a roughly 34 million in annual revenue. More importantly, we believe the composition and quality of revenue has materially improved as the company continues its transition towards high-value defense, recurring operations, and software-enabled opportunities. Gross profit for the year was approximately $11 million, representing a 32% gross margin. The gross margin are also expanding. Few years back, it was approximately 26%. With the change in the product mix, disciplined execution around margin expansion, and operational leverage, with higher recurring revenue, our margins are expanding today. If you look at the center of this section, you can see the business mix has evolved. Historically, Volatus was predominantly on the services and data side. Today, as we operate a more balanced model towards equipment and services, with 2025 landing approximately 48% in equipment sales, which is selling of hardware and drones, and 52% is across services, which basically means selling data. Strategically, that matters because it allows us to participate across full customer lifecycle, from platform sales and integration to operation training and long-term support. Defense represented approximately 25% of business, showcasing a strong momentum in that vertical. Over time, we expect defense and sovereign allied programs to become significantly larger component of the overall business mix as well. Geographically, Canada remains our largest market, approximately 57% of revenue. But what is particularly important is the growth we are seeing in international markets, especially across Europe and the UK, where revenue has grown approximately 244% year over year. That reflects increasing demand for ISR, defense training and remote operations, and sovereign capability development among allied nations and NATO organizations. From a balance sheet perspective, we ended the year with approximately 41 million cash on hand, providing us with the flexibility and continued scaling of the platform and supporting a transition towards larger aerospace and defense opportunity. At the bottom of the slide, there are two metrics that are particularly important. First, entering 2026 with expected approximately 20 million of annual recurring revenue, which reflects the increasing stability and predictability in our business compared to previous years. Secondly, is the commercial sales pipeline now exceeds $500 million. Obviously, the pipeline is not revenue, and conversion timing varies significantly in aerospace and defense cycles, but we believe it demonstrates the scale of opportunity we have achieved specifically compared to previous years. Our defense pipeline is meaningfully larger than a commercial sales pipeline, which also comes with material uh, impacts and what's happening in the geopolitical regions as well. Overall, the key takeaway is that Volatus today is fundamentally different than the company originally entered the public market 6 years ago. Today, we have more diversified revenue, diversified scale, increased recurring revenue in nature, and positioning across operations, training, software, and manufacturing. This slide, we wanted to provide some context around how public markets are currently valuing companies operating in adjacent aerospace, ISR, and autonomous system sectors. What stand out immediately is that Volatus continues to trade at a meaningful discount relative to many comparable public companies as showcased here, despite having what we believe is one of the most diversified models in this entire sector. We are the only company that operates at the intersection or at both the sides of the spectrum, defense and commercial, where most of our comps today are operating only on the defense, which of course brings opportunities and cyclicality at the same time. The capabilities we have built is needs to be most notable part as well, particularly around the autonomy, remote operations, and defense support. In Canada, the defense oh, excuse me. In Canada, the defense industrial strategy has basically unlocked a lot of investment opportunities, putting greater emphasis on several aerospace companies. Our focus remains simple: execute, grow revenue, and expand the capability. From a strategic perspective, we believe our competitive edge comes from three core areas. First is the comprehensive end-to-end solution rather than isolated products. Second, a growing portfolio of proprietary technologies and operational IP. And third is the flexibility in adapting quickly to changing market and geopolitical conditions. Over time, we believe consistent execution gives the market an opportunity to reassess how Volatus fits in this entire segment. Alignment is what matters to us the most. The board and management maintain meaningful ownership position. Today, we have 21% of the company is held by the insiders, which is the board and the management, and not a single insider has sold their positions since we started the company 6 years ago. That showcases significant skin in the game and the belief we all have in the story and the company we are building today. Our equity compensation structure is focused on long-term value creation. Every employee of Volatus is a shareholder and gets to participate in a stock option and RSU equity plan of the organization. Our focus is building durable enterprise, through, and valued across infrastructure, autonomy, and sovereign capability. The last slide I want to highlight our growth strategy. Our strategy is focused on scaling the platform, not simply expanding our product lines. That includes growing autonomous operations, expanding defense capability, increasing software mission systems integration, and selectively pursuing acquisition that strengthen the broader operating architecture of the company. We also continue to scale our manufacturing infrastructure around a production philosophy designed to support commercial growth, rapid technology evolution, and future development and enhancement as the future, defense requirement keep evolving. That brings me towards end of the organized presentation. Happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much for the great presentation. There's so much to cover. Please, if anyone has additional question, please write it in the Q&A or in the comment box. In the meantime, I want to bring you back to a few things that you said during your presentation. I think first off, you discuss of raising of revenues coming from Europe and UK. Can you and overseas? Can you tell us a little more about what's happening in the defense sector on a macro level, geopolitically, and why is that relevant into this geopolitical sphere that's happening right now and the new link and dimensions that are happening?
Absolutely. So ever since, this actually date back to 2022, ever since Ukraine was invaded, the drones becomes the modern, weapons for warfare. Today, if a soldier is facing, if they are already facing the enemy soldier in front of them, they're too late in the war and probably they have lost the war itself because the entire warfare is having remotely, autonomously, and using unmanned aerial vehicles. Our first entry in the European markets was in terms of defense was when Ukraine was invaded. We started supplying drone technologies to Ukraine, and the technologies were initially meant to enable Ukraine to help find a displaced population. But the technology expanded so quickly and it was so meaningfully impactful that Russia sanctioned 100 Canadians. Glenn, our CEO, is number on that list. I'm number 13 on that list. So we are on the list of Canadians that have been sanctioned by Russia. So that basically gave us a way that how a technology can actually be deployed more than just commercial purpose into defense applications. Since then, we started expanding more aggressively in the in the UK, in the European market. So we supply to UK, we supply to different European NATO countries and NATO allies today. And a lot of the, if I look at the European market, even today, a lot of the European business comes in the defense and supplying drones to NATO allies. Surprising fact is the entire defense revenue we have today is coming out of the European NATO allies. Canada has just started investing in its defense capabilities. It's this year the Canada launched its defense industrial strategy, which basically repositions and commits spending almost $70 billion over the next 10 years in defense. So we foresee that Canada is going to expand and our revenue share in Canadian markets is going to meaningfully increase in terms of defense. But having said that, Europe has seen it firsthand what happens when you have a hostile neighbor and they are facing it. There's a commitment by NATO. There's increased spending by NATO and increased requirement as well. And that's where we started engaging and we are expanding meaningfully as well in that market. This UK has a commercial revenue as well for us in that segment. We provide training to NATO and NATO allies. We provide uh, thermal services and drone activities in that segment. We supply equipment to public safety, to police department, to fire department in that region as well. So we are seeing meaningful growth. The commercial segment is growing with double-digit CAGR, but defense is growing with almost multiple of revenue right now.
That's very interesting. And then obviously when revenues are rising, that means that more production, that means that more research and development has to be done, obviously. And so, can you tell us the importance of the new complex that you have within that Mirabel technological new hub that has been created? And can you tell us what kind of synergy that can come out of that, and give us a little more details, as a lot of people do not know how new that is, how a hub it is done, and your place in it.
Absolutely. So we committed last year on expanding our manufacturing capability. So we have a approximately 53,000 square feet manufacturing facility in Mirabel, which is basically in Montreal, Quebec in Canada. And that facility is meant to manufacture certain technologies. And so the first one is basically we acquired a UK-based technology last year. We call it as MALE, which is medium altitude long endurance drones. It's a V100 series or V series, V100, 200, 300. These are the drones that can fly anywhere from 8 hours at the lower end to 3 days at the higher end. They are meant for Arctic surveillance, they're meant for defense ISR purposes, they're meant for operations for more surveillance activities. So that's one that we have made the investment. That's being built. In Q2, we'll have our first prototype ready and start flying and doing demos for the armed forces. Then we are building the smaller attritable technologies. These are basically one-way drones. We call it a zoom and boom, which famously Ukraine has opened up the eyes of the every country, every defense organization, how capable they are in defending one's nation. So that's something that's also being built. We're also building our own docking stations. We call it a Sentinel dock. These are basically, these are like docking station that gets deployed in remote operations for remote inspection purposes, including for border surveillance activities and border monitoring purposes. So that's been developed. The first unit is already out in 11 weeks now, and we are scaling that. We are going to scale and manufacture our counter UAS technologies in that space as well. Interceptor drones, that's been built as well. So these are the four layers of technologies on the hardware side that's been built. We have an entire dedicated software technology team that are building the autonomy layer, which we call it as Cortex AI. Imagine like a brains behind a drone. What's happening today is, the operator tells a drone what needs to be done at a smaller scale. But what happens when the drone enters a contested environment? What happens when the operator is unable to connect with the drone? What can a drone do? So that's where the Cortex AI comes into play. It goes in the drone, it activates all the sensors of a drone, it enables the drone to decide whether it needs to go and execute the mission, whether it needs to go and destroy the target, do a surveillance and come back, or return to home, or create a swarm. Just few examples. Those are the capabilities that have been built by a software technology. We are building a counter UAS platform entirely. The entire counter UAS warfare today is hardware to hardware. We see it's moving to be hardware to software. That's been built, and we expect everything to be commercialized within the span of 3 to 6 months.
Perfect. I mean, that was a great answer, but we're out of time. I could discuss with you for hours and hours. So we're going to be continuing on following your story. If our viewers want, go have a look.
I can't
Volatus
hear
Aerospace, I think, is
anything.
very compelling and interesting stories. Best of luck, guys, and see you next time. Thank you for presenting with us.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.